Your commentators here in Shanghai, Martin Brundle and David Croft.
And a very good Sunday morning to you all. Chinese Grand Prix that could be as appetizing as your Sunday morning fry-up, this one. Welcome along to round 3 of the Formula One World Championship. In 2016 we have beautiful weather here in Shanghai today and a mixed-up grid and a promise of 56 laps of thrilling racing to come. Let's face it, Australia and Bahrain weren't bad races at all. Shanghai could certainly top that. It's a 3.4-mile circuit. It winds its way around 16 corners, 7 to the left and 9 to the right, with the average lap speed here is about 114 miles an hour, but the top speeds over 210 miles an hour along the kilometre-long back straight towards the heavy braking zone at turn 14, aided by DRS, and along the main straight with the second DRS zone as well. Plenty of chances to overtake here, plenty of chances to come through the grid. Mark Webber did it from 18th on the grid to finish 3rd here in 2011. That's what Lewis Hamilton will be aiming to do today. His teammate Nico Rosberg will start on pole, hoping to continue Mercedes-Benz domination in 2016, but Martin Brundle, for the first time, we haven't got one but 2 real threats from Ferrari and a Red Bull in the mix as well.
We certainly have. It's an interesting grid. Personally, I think it's going to be an absolutely rubbish race, because whenever we big it up, it disappoints us. And then we sometimes sit back in Hungary or other tracks that are not supposed to give great races, and they're absolute blinders. But you have to say, the ingredients are all there. They've had limited track time to work out what to do with their tyres. The track completely different today than the previous 2 days, so there's a lot of unknowns out there.
Can't wait, put it that way. And this is how the grid looks then. 5th consecutive pole for Mercedes at this circuit. It's Nico Rosberg today, Ricciardo alongside him. Then Kimi Raikkonen, Sebastian Vettel, and all Ferrari second row. Raikkonen out-qualifies his teammate for the first time this year. Valtteri Bottas, first time since Russia. He's qualified 5th on the grid. Danny Kvyat, the Russian, alongside him. Then comes Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz. Perez with Force India's best ever qualifying here. Max Verstappen, out-qualified by Sainz, has Felipe Massa alongside him on the 5th row of the grid. And then it's all McLaren. Fernando Alonso outgunning Jenson Button yesterday afternoon. Nico Hülkenberg has a 3-place grid penalty after his wheel fell off in qualifying. The birthday boy, Roman Grosjean, 30 today alongside him. And it's Marcus Ericsson and Felipe Nasser of Sauber, both cars for Sauber out of Q1 for the first time this year. Kevin Magnussen and Esteban Gutierrez line up alongside each other. Jolyon Palmer behind his teammate. 2 Renaults for the second weekend running have not made it out of Q1. Rio Haryanto out-qualifies his teammate Pascal Wehrlein, who crashed in qualifying. Lewis Hamilton had problems with his MGU-H and his Mercedes didn't set a time. What can he do from the back of the grid? The man here who's had 3 podiums in 9 starts outside the top 15, but this surely his toughest challenge of the lot.
And he starts on new soft yellow marked tyres, as do most drivers in front of him. Track temperature is 43 now. Magnussen in 17th on the super soft. They've split the McLaren, so Alonso soft, Button super soft. So pretty much the tail end of the field on the yellow marked softs, and the top 9, as it were, have to start on the tyres they did their best time in Q2, and of course Rosberg is the unusual one there on the soft tyres.
Let's make it simple then for people back home. If you start on the super soft tyres, you're going to have more pace, or you should have, than the soft tyres, but you won't last as long on your first stint. How long can you go on that first stint, and what is the advantage then of running that much longer with a soft tyre?
They fall away at 0.4 of a second per lap, which is huge. So, you know, 10 laps in, you're 4 seconds a lap slower than you were on a brand new set. So we know they're not going to go very far before it's a 23-second pit stop. You know, before you might as well come in and change them. So they'll be in sooner than later with what's going on there. Like a bit of a drama going on there, I thought, with Daniel Ricciardo. But sooner than later, you just got to come in the pits on those super soft. So Rosberg, in a way, even if he gets a poor start, has just got to bide his time and wait for those around him to peel off and then pump in some mighty laps. The problem for Lewis right in the back there is everybody in front of him all the way up to Massa in 10th place, with the exception of Button, Hülkenberg and Magnussen, are on the same tyres as him. So he's going to have to overtake them on sheer pace. But if he gets some clear air, he can also punch in some mighty lap times.
So there's confirmation then of the starting tyres. You said McLaren splitting their strategy, Martin, as the cars make their way from the grid for the first time. How quickly does Jenson Button need to pass Fernando Alonso, for instance, because he's on the super soft and Alonso can go that much longer?
Yeah, he needs to have a go down into turn 1 and turn 2, doesn't he? If you're wondering why Massa is on a brand new set of softs, of course he qualified 11th but moved up to 10th when Hülkenberg got his penalty, a little bit unfair in a way. His wheel fell off, so he didn't get quali effort, and then he gets a penalty for good measure, but they're obviously trying to encourage the teams to make sure the wheels don't fall off.
Yeah, the problem was with the assembly of the actual nut. The nut was tightened up properly, but the assembly itself didn't hold on. And that's why Force India were penalised for that. Now, Lewis Hamilton got away really slowly. And he's a bit juddery there going through turn 1. He's already quite a long way back from the back of the pack. So I don't know whether Mercedes can actually radio this to Nico Rosberg with the new radio restrictions. He might want to go a little bit slower, otherwise he's going to be sat on the grid for a very long time.
I suspect Lewis is hoping to catch up nearer the end of the lap. He can't fall too far behind. He's not allowed to, but catch up nearer the end of the lap, and therefore he's got warmer tyres and brakes than anybody else, because he'll be last man to park up on his grid slot, and he can give it some beans just before he gets there.
So the Drivers' Championship, as you might have just seen on your screen, a 17-point lead for Nico Rosberg over Lewis Hamilton, who's won the first 2 races of the season. Today, he has that twin-pronged Ferrari attack to worry about as well. Ferrari with Kimi Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel looking really, really good in the practice sessions here, and I'm sure very hopeful to close that 50-point gap in the Constructors' Championship today.
They certainly need a stronger run. There's a few teams out there, really, you know, Williams, Force India in particular, McLaren, they desperately need a haul of points today, don't they?
Grandstands absolutely packed for the 13th Chinese Grand Prix. Sergio Marchionne, the big boss at Ferrari, is here today watching on, and he might just have picked a very good race to come down and watch the Scuderia as the cars make their way down towards the hairpin. This is where we see a lot of overtaking down at turn 14. If you're brave enough, if you're late enough, you can make some super moves down there.
There'll be lots of marbles building up later, though, won't there? The discarded pieces of rubber, especially now we've introduced these super soft tyres, and that'll be a factor in the last quarter of the race, there's no doubt about it. But yeah, it's a Geronimo moment heading into there. It's like, okay, whenever you brake, I'm going to brake just that little bit later. Geronimo, here I come. And then you just hope you don't run out of talent and space all at the same time, or just plain run into the other driver.
So there we see the front of the grid, Mercedes on pole in their 400th Grand Prix as an engine supplier, but the first time in 9 races that they haven't locked out the front row. Singapore was the last time they did that. Ferrari, of course, great success with Sebastian Vettel that particular afternoon. Daniel Ricciardo was on the front row in Singapore that day as well, and he went on to claim a podium. What can he do for Red Bull to try and revive their fortunes after a poor season, really, for that team last year? And Lewis Hamilton now just making his way under the bridge to line up plumb last at the back of the grid with his teammate pointing right to try and cut off Ricciardo at the start here. 22 cars lined up on the grid for the Chinese Grand Prix. It's lights out, and away we go. Good start from Rosberg, good start from Ricciardo, and also from Sebastian Vettel. Kimi Raikkonen, I should say. Vettel just under a bit of pressure from Bottas going through. Almost contact there, as Bottas has to go wide, and Fiat slips in on the inside, and the 2 Ferraris have crashed.
Yeah, and then more contact there as well. Chaotic first corner, and it's Raikkonen off the rope. The 2 Ferraris connected each other.
And Hamilton hit as well, and damage to his front wing as Massa slews wide going through turn 3. Lost his front wing. Lewis Hamilton, we're on board now. The front wing caught underneath the car, as you can see, and that is going to be a very difficult job just to get back to the pits and to try and repair damage being caused on this opening lap.
Yeah, and if that goes underneath the car, it'll cause more damage to the undertray, to the underfloor of the car, and it will have had a difficult afternoon before the race started. It's somewhat more difficult now.
Out in front, Ricciardo from Rosberg.
Okay, I made contact. I had no chance to avoid. I had the Red Bull coming up the inside like a madman, and I hit Kimi. I think my nose is damaged.
And you can see the Ferrari a long way back in the background there for Sebastian Vettel. And it is Daniel Ricciardo from Rosberg and Fiat who was the one coming down the inside from Sainz, Perez, Hulkenberg, Massa, Button and Vettel and Valtteri Bottas as they come down the back straight now. And you can see bits of carbon fibre and already marbles just appearing on the side of the track as well. Into the hairpin we go. There's the two Red Bulls with the Mercedes in the middle, and down the inside now comes Sebastian Vettel on Jenson Button. Vettel makes the move on the McLaren.
A lot of pieces missing from the front wing end fence on the left-hand side of Sebastian Vettel. He'll get away with that one. He'll understeer a bit, and this is a track that challenges the front tyre the best time. Right at the back then was Hamilton and Raikkonen.
Hamilton and Nasser tangled, and it was trying to avoid Sebastian Vettel that they actually managed to tangle. We'll see the replay in a moment as Verstappen goes down at the inside. Bit of debris on the left-hand side there through turn 2. Into the pits comes Grosjean and Kimi Raikkonen. Really unlucky for him, and Lewis Hamilton has now made his way into the pits as well. Out in front, 0.7 of a second was the gap between Ricciardo and Rosberg. New front wing going on then for Lewis Hamilton, and what tyres will he come out on? Medium compound tyre for Kimi Raikkonen, soft compound tyre going on for Lewis Hamilton as they get rid of the original softs that were on in the start of the race.
So those two can try and race back now for some points, possibly. But what they desperately need is a full-blown safety car or something like that, don't they, now, to bring them back. And with that amount of debris on the track, we might get a virtual safety car.
There goes Sebastian Vettel on the inside of Felipe Massa, just shoves the Williams to one side as he makes his way through. It's no contact, it was a clean move, and Massa's lost out again as Jenson Button picks up a very opportunist move indeed, and Jenson Button puts himself up into 8th place. Sebastian Vettel 7th, and Massa now down in 9th. There's your race leader, Daniel Ricciardo from Nico Rosberg, and then comes Danny Kvyat. Behind him, Sergio Perez and Nico Hulkenberg. Force India going really well, and here's Button and Massa once again. Battle resumed down into the hairpin. Who's going to come out of this one on top? Jenson Button gets some really good traction with those super soft tyres, and he keeps ahead of Felipe Massa with Massa's teammate Valtteri Bottas right behind him. The Williams of Bottas going from 5th to 10th now by the end of the second lap. Rosberg, I should say, has put in the fastest lap of this race to try and keep tabs on Ricciardo, and he's now got some DRS assistance to try and help him when he gets to the next long straight.
The tyres they're on, Rosberg does not have to take any risks whatsoever against the Red Bull. He can just follow him if he wants to. If he gets an easy pass down the back straight, I'm sure he'll take it, but he's better to look after his tyres. And DRS is now enabled, so he should be pretty mighty down that back straight. We know in normal conditions the Mercedes will be faster than the Red Bull in VMAX, top speed down the straight. But Rosberg, the way this race is, and this year, this championship is unfolding, it just keeps playing into Rosberg's hands. He can just sit there and coast now.
I asked him the other day, does he believe the gods of luck are shining down on him, and he said no. You might want to go and watch the replay of the start there and think that something is favouring him.
Well, as ever, he's got to get to the end before they hand him any points.
That's very true. We have a long way to go. We're only on lap 3 of 56. Good morning to you. If you're just tuning in, we're riding on board now with Nico Rosberg. He has got DRS assistance, and he is gaining here on Daniel Ricciardo. And look at the power of that Mercedes-Benz engine. And Ricciardo's got a problem. He's got a puncture. It's the left rear, and the rubber goes flying off the car, and that is how Nico Rosberg easily got past. He's got to watch himself. Ricardo Hicks, his teammate now, has gone past him as well, and that is absolute tragedy. Personal tragedy there for Daniel Ricciardo. Was leading the race, now has to come into the pits.
There's so much debris out on the track. I'm a little bit surprised they haven't thrown a safety car, actually, to get out and clear away the various front wings. It was a clumsy first lap, to say the least. And Ricciardo then, he came off 13 very poorly. Now we know why. His tyre was going down.
Carlos Sainz under pressure from Sebastian Vettel, who after his poor start is making his way through the field. We're looking for damage on that front wing on his Ferrari, but not too much damage, it seems, or not really hampering his progress and shaking his head. Daniel Ricciardo comes back out onto the track, and he will have Kimi Raikkonen and Lewis Hamilton as the only cars behind him, and there goes Carlos Sainz trying to make a move on Nico Hulkenberg. Toro Rosso on Force India with Sebastian Vettel lying in wait.
Force India then 3rd and 4th at the moment. signs up in 5th. Vettel beginning to catch that little squabble as well for good measure. So a little bit of front wing missing. What can he do to help that? He's got an electronic differential that he can adjust that from the steering wheel. Driving style a little bit. Maybe slow down a bit more on the way into the corner. Try and use your traction instead through the exit. Use your power as you can. But other than that, with so much front aero missing, Vettel, and again it'll be a critical decision with Vettel. Do they lose a dozen seconds in the pit stop and change that? We do have a safety car.
This is now going to, I think, see a steady stream of cars coming into the pits, Martin. You're right, the safety car has been thrown.
They had to. Frankly, I'm surprised it didn't go out a little bit earlier, as I said. But that brings Raikkonen and Hamilton right back into the action.
Ted,
I have no doubt.
And Ricciardo, of course, Ricciardo onto the soft tyres as Red Bull try to salvage some points from his race. But Force India now coming into the pits. Ferrari as well are going to pit Sebastian Vettel. Red Bull are going to pit Danny Kvyat, as well as our Williams are going to pit one of their drivers. But it never rains but it pours for Hamilton, guys. He's now saying that the car doesn't feel right. He says it feels light at the front. Well, after he made his pit stop, I saw him, he passed me in the pit lane. He was just wiggling the steering wheel from side to side, getting a feel for how the car felt. Fiat does pit. Oh, there's a big traffic jam. Jenson Button almost goes into the back of the Toro Rosso. No contact, though. Toro Rosso are stacking their cars here with Max Verstappen, the second one in there. Nice stop for Ferrari. I think they changed the nose.
Yes, they did.
Yes,
they did change the nose, Ted. Jenson Button onto the medium compound tyre, and we said about it helps Daniel Ricciardo out here to gain on people. Ricciardo comes through and gets out ahead of Max Verstappen, so round about 15th place. Let's have a look at the start here.
Perfect start from Ricciardo, so now he's got track position into turn 1. Rosberg doesn't fight him too hard. Now watch this. So the Ferrari claims he did have to get out of the way. I think it was a slightly contrite Seb Vettel on the radio trying to explain himself before they talked to him.
I didn't think
I don't think he had to move that far left.
I didn't think Fiat came through like a madman, really.
No, I think Seb's going to have to take the rap for that. He then has contact on the other side as well. But
this is where we see Lewis Hamilton going over debris and tangling with Felipe Nasser.
Yeah.
And that's where he sustained damage to his front wing. Ricciardo getting past Rosberg by this stage. And then the two Ferraris trip over themselves. Perez and Hulkenberg tiptoe through.
It was almost as if Vettel was busy watching the Red Bull and didn't really pay enough attention to his teammate on the outside.
So Hamilton here is going to see a bit of debris coming out that he can't avoid. Then Nasser getting out of the way of Raikkonen, cuts across and hits Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, so Nasser avoiding Raikkonen, which would have been probably unsighted to Lewis there. Now, I'm not surprised if it feels a little bit odd, because he's ripping aero parts off it, despite putting a new front wing on, and he took a fair old thump on the left front suspension as well. So I'd be amazed if the steering is not a little bit out.
As we go on board with Sebastian Vettel into this turn.
It was a bit of a wedge from that angle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, and then there was the second clout then against the Force
Perez
India.
in the Force India.
It was a wedge he was driving into.
This is Romain Grosjean, who also had problems at the start as well, and Grosjean currently 21st in this race. Hugging that inside line, but he's going to get squeezed here. Like that. Tried to avoid contact on his 30th birthday and didn't really get any present for his troubles.
Kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, really. You know, it's like a half-hearted soccer or rugby tackle. Here's Seb Vettel then, and he can barely slow down in the pit lane. He's so anxious to get on with it, because the speed limit, yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
The speed limit is now 50 miles. Now, I love that. That brain switched on at all times from Seb Vettel there.
Didn't lose any time at all. Ted, down to you.
So Mercedes mechanics are out in the pit lane, Crofty.
Because who's coming in now? We can see the Mercedes car, and it is Lewis Hamilton, Ted.
Is it to retire?
Well, I don't know. They're changing tyres. Are they putting him on super softs? Yes, they are putting him on super softs.
It's almost like there's a bit of a conversation went on after that as well, Ted, before he took off.
Just having a look at the car itself. Little bit of damage to a barge board just south of the nose, but not too bad. You've got to wonder about that steering. They obviously think it's fine to continue, though.
So this is the order as the cars come past us now, behind the safety car, Rosberg, who doesn't have to stop because he's on the soft tyres, and they'll last him for a bit longer. Nice present there if someone wants to pick up a front wing. From Felipe Massa, who hasn't stopped. From Fernando Alonso and Pascal Wehrlein, who also haven't stopped. And Esteban Gutierrez, who hasn't been into the pits yet either. Danny Kvyat is the leading driver that has been into the pits. Jolyon Palmer and Rio Haryanto have not stopped as yet. And then Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas, Jenson Button, Carlos Sainz, Nico Hulkenberg and Marcus Ericsson, Sebastian Vettel, who's now 15th. Kevin Magnussen and Daniel Ricciardo, who led the race at the start, is now 17th.
We have a plan. Nothing wrong, all part of the plan.
It's definitely a plan B, though. Actually, by this stage, it might even be a plan E. You never know. Max Verstappen is 18th, then Kimi Raikkonen, then comes Lewis Hamilton, Romain Grosjean and Felipe Nasser. Somehow, Martin, 22 cars are still running here after what has been a bonkers 6 laps.
And interestingly, Nasser is a lap down, so if they play the lap runners may now pass, this is going to be a long safety car. But we were 4 laps into the race, so it was just about in the window for the super soft runners to bin them, wasn't it? They've done what, 16 miles plus qualifying. Let's get rid of those.
Right, Lewis coming in.
Sorry, I'm boxing you again now. Hey, Ferb, we're going to fit the soft so we don't have to use any other compounds.
They've put the super soft tyre on, and now, however long the stints are going to be, they're going to be much longer than if you've got to use the super softs. And Lewis Hamilton went into this race with 3 new sets of soft compound tyres. So therefore, has plenty of fresh
He's on
soft
the second one now, isn't he?
Second one now.
Yeah.
He's got another new set to go as well.
Yeah.
Can he get to the end of the race on this set and another new set? Will that give him the pace to make its way through?
And that is why we're all watching, Crofty, because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, but the safety car has definitely reinvigorated the race after the first lap craziness.
Put it this way, he could go soft, but Ted, that's going to be a hard job. Hang on 2 seconds.
Kvyat's attack was suicidal. There was always going to be a crash. No way, with the speed he had, he could have done the corner.
Sebastian Vettel not overly happy with his teammate there and wanting the team to know about that now.
Kvyat.
Oh, you say Kvyat?
Yeah.
It wasn't Kimi.
No, I think he was basically still having a moan at the I think he knows that's all a little bit uncomfortable. Well, it's extremely uncomfortable running into your teammate, but he's trying to post-rationalise that. I must admit, it looks somewhat more challenging from on board his car than it did from a high angle.
Right, Ted, down to you.
You might as well have addressed that message. Sergio, if you're listening, Mr. Marchioni, just wants to let you know my excuse. But anyway, I think suicidal is quite a strong word, isn't it, guys? But I don't think he means it in
suicidal for his
in
wing.
the literal sense. Exactly, yeah. But anyway, just quickly on Hamilton. So it does mean, of course, that they don't plan on running the mediums, doesn't it, Martin? So it is probably still looking at 3 stops from here on in to add to the 2 that he's already done. Of course, one for well, he's done 3 now already, hasn't he, Hamilton? 1 for a wing.
Yeah.
And then 2 for tyres.
That's right.
So Hamilton could do a 6th stop from here. It's pushing it a bit to get through the rest of this race on only soft tyres with only 2 more tyre stops. Wouldn't you agree?
It is. Like I said, it's a hard job. Just hang on 2 seconds, Ted. We're just looking there. It's a pit lane.
It's Piccadilly Circus, the pit lane. I love this. I love that. Vettel, okay, he's slow. I can pass them. My brain is engaged. He was very lucky he didn't get wiped out, but fortune favours the brave. And then they were just jockeying around like crazy. Remembering, of course, that the end of your nose, the end of the front wing is a couple of metres in front of you, and you can see absolutely none of it when you're sitting in the cockpit from where the driver's eye line to the front of his car. The cars are 4 metres long, and he's pretty much sitting in the middle of it. As you can imagine, a lot of that is out of view, and rather too easy, even for the skills this lot have got, as we saw in the first corner, rather too easy to knock off those expensive front wings.
Right, so the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, and we're going to go racing again. And the field are all bunched up, apart from poor old Fred Nasser, who has unlapped himself at least, but is quite a long way behind. So it's Mercedes at the front and it's Mercedes at the back of the peloton, should we call it at this stage, with Nasser desperately pedalling to get as close as he can. That is the chief strategist at Mercedes, who looks like he's got a job on his hands now for the next 48 laps or so.
Those cans on his ears to keep the steam in, I'd imagine, or the smoke that James is having to cope with there as he's computing that.
Just a touch. It is Rosberg, Massa, Alonso, the top three. The top five haven't been into the pits. After that, Danny Kvyat has. So Kvyat running 6th at the moment, so they're all on the soft compound tyre, down to Button, who's in 11th. Kvyat's in a very good place here. If he can get some overtaking done, you know, he's very much going to be challenging Rosberg.
Cold front tyres for Massa there, but he'll get away with that, especially when they're cold. They don't flat spot quite as much. So green flag, and there is that first safety car line where they can overtake on the way into that last corner if they're anywhere near close enough. But these guys then, any fuel issues are out of the window with that safety car period, so they can go like crazy.
Here we go then, looking back to Valtteri Bottas, who's got Rio Haryanto in his sights, and also Sergio Perez, and round the outside of Haryanto goes Bottas. Now we go to Gutierrez, who has Kvyat on the inside, and Kvyat's made that move, and he's put himself, the Russian, now up into 5th. Rosberg continues to lead from Felipe Massa and Fernando Alonso and Pascal Wehrlein, who was getting interested in the McLaren going into turn 1 as well. Wehrlein is having some great starts in his Formula 1 career, but he's under pressure now as Kvyat goes down the inside. Good move there from the Russian. He's picked up 2 places in the space of 6 corners as we're racing once again on lap 9 here in Shanghai. Hamilton has now got himself 20th. He's gone past Grosjean. We're on board with Sebastian Vettel, and Vettel currently running 14th, and make that another pass, I think, for him as well, as he's now got the Force India of Hulkenberg behind him. He's up into 13th, getting Haryanto dispatched. No room down the inside at turn 9. We go on to 10, and then there might be a bit of room if he's brave enough at the end of this little straight.
It's a very short braking zone, though.
Here we go, Sebastian Vettel down the inside on Nico Hulkenberg. One German passes another German driver there, and Vettel continues to make his way through the field. Out in front, Rosberg still heads Felipe Massa and Fernando Alonso, and now we get to the next heavy braking zone, and Rosberg's not going to be under danger at all from the Williams. Massa's dropping back, but is he going to have a go? Kvyat on Alonso down the inside of the hairpin. There he goes. He's made that move. Valtteri Bottas is having a go at Jolyon Palmer as well. Palmer locks up. Perez has to watch out as well, and there goes Jenson Button making a move on Carlos Sainz at the hairpin. There's action absolutely everywhere here, and Daniel Ricciardo now having a little attack on Rio Haryanto, and that's down in 14th place. At the end of that lap, 2.2 seconds is the gap out in front. Jolyon Palmer under pressure from Jenson Button. Button swoops round the outside into turn 1, and there's Sebastian Vettel steaming in on the inside as well. Vettel's got Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, so look at that then. Button on the medium compound tyres, clean drives past the Renault down the pit straight, suggesting that Honda is beginning to really come on song.
And suggesting that the track temperature at 42 degrees isn't bad for those medium tyres as well. We're on board with Lewis Hamilton, and he's now got Kevin Magnussen in his sights. Hamilton down the inside, braking way later than Kevin Magnussen was able to do, and taking evasive action before he lost another front wing. He's made the pass, Hamilton up into 18th.
How far can Hamilton get? How far can Raikkonen get? They're currently 17th and 18th, I believe it is, when it all shakes out. But just a good reminder, isn't it? We've got a very competitive... Maybe not always at the front for the podium every single lap of every single race, but in the mid-pack, it's frantic.
On the super soft tyre, Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton. On the medium tyre, Felipe Nasser and Marcus Ericsson and Jenson Button. The rest are all on the soft compound, and it's the super soft tyre that is helping Hamilton and Vettel. We look now to see Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez with Gutierrez just ahead of them. Into the hairpin they go. This is going to be very tight indeed. Vettel's waiting to pounce just a little bit behind. Perez manages to stay ahead of Valtteri Bottas. The fight here, 6th for Gutierrez, 7th for Perez, 8th for Bottas. Daniel Ricciardo making his way through the field, and there comes Lewis Hamilton with Kimi Raikkonen right behind him. Kimi Raikkonen has been overtaken by Lewis Hamilton on lap 10 here. 3.7 seconds is the gap for Nico Rosberg. Now we look at the former race leader, Daniel Ricciardo, moving in on Nico Hulkenberg going into turn 1. Hulkenberg goes wide. Ricciardo is able to hug the inside line there. He's picked off one driver. It's going to be difficult to get past Palmer because he's now got the inside line, but Ricciardo, I think, has managed to do just that. Now we're watching Fernando Alonso, and behind him comes Perez on Gutierrez, and then Sebastian Vettel on Valtteri Bottas. On the inside at turn 6, they almost touched Vettel and Bottas. I think they might have just done that. And can Vettel get past the Finn? No, Bottas hanging on in there and managing to keep hold of that 8th place.
Tremendous precision driving now, unlike lap 1. There's some beautiful driving going on, but Alonso then up in 4th place, having started on those soft tyres, having not pitted. The man who, the highest placed man at the moment who has pitted is Daniel Kvyat, now up in 3rd, having a stellar afternoon.
Just to correct myself, because sadly our information in the commentary box is wrong. Hamilton on the soft compound tyre, not on the super soft compound tyre, but definitely ahead of Kimi Raikkonen and also Jolyon Palmer as well, now in 14th place. Sergio Perez this time getting a great tow, and DRS assistance behind Esteban Gutierrez in their wheel to wheel. It's Mercedes power against Ferrari power. It's Force India against Haas. Into the hairpin we go. Sebastian Vettel's braking late behind. Perez has managed to get past Gutierrez. Now round the outside goes Sebastian Vettel and Valtteri Bottas. Gets a great getaway as well, and Sebastian Vettel makes up a place and goes up into 8th now and 7th now at that hairpin. Fights absolutely everywhere here. It's scrap time here in China, and we look as Pascal Wehrlein under pressure now with DRS assistance by Sergio Perez. Perez chooses the inside line, as you can see, to take the manor and go up into 5th place. Sebastian Vettel trying to make a move. He's just going to have to bide his time for a few more corners.
It's like a Formula 3 race with 900 horsepower.
It's absolutely brilliant. 4 cars going into the hairpin there, and you didn't really know who was going to come out.
It was the contact. It was contact at turn 6 earlier on in the proceedings.
And Sebastian Vettel, while we're watching this replay, the contact with Valtteri Bottas has got past Pascal Wehrlein. He is now up into 6th.
Both lucky there, both very lucky indeed. Bottas that he wasn't spun around pointing in the opposite direction, and Vettel that he didn't break his front wing. He got away with it. Good for us, good for the race.
Because he is charging through Sebastian Vettel, and now of course it does get a little bit harder to make some of these moves, but at least he's still got the opportunity. Rosberg from Massa, from Kvyat and Alonso, the top 4.
And Kvyat catching Massa as well for 2nd place. Rosberg, which just keeps falling in his lap.
Talking of Kvyat on Massa for 2nd place, you said he was catching him. I'd say he's caught him by the hairpin, and he's catching a decent exit as well. Danny Kvyat with the Russian Grand Prix to come next. Is he going to be heading to Sochi with a possible podium finish under his belt?
And once again, the ex-Renault power, now called something else, passing a Mercedes powered car down the straight, down the 1.1 kilometre straight.
They've certainly made improvements, have Renault with the engine in that Red Bull, but through the slower corners as well. The Red Bull has been absolutely mighty throughout this weekend. Ferrari power against Ferrari power here, Carlos Sainz and Esteban Gutierrez. Gutierrez was 10th, he's not now. Sainz has got past him. Right behind comes Daniel Ricciardo, and look who's that, going around the outside of Daniel Ricciardo, or certainly trying to. It's Lewis Hamilton. Ricciardo cuts him off. Hamilton has to slot behind, but he's going to have another go here at Gutierrez. Might just have to watch out, there are 2 cars coming at him. Ricciardo goes down the inside on Esteban Gutierrez. Hamilton waits, lies in wait, has to wait a little bit longer.
Lewis knew very well there, you have to be really careful when you're 2nd man steaming in, because they don't always know you're coming.
Here he goes now though, round the outside, it's turn 8. Good move. Esteban Gutierrez has lost 2 places. Daniel Ricciardo runs ahead of Lewis Hamilton in 11th, but for how much longer?
His car's working well now. He can take any line he wants through a corner. Working brilliantly. He was concerned, wasn't he, after the initial impact, that he was missing some front downforce, but since he's got a good front end on it at the moment. If he can get a good exit off T13 here, down the long straight and get the DRS open, he's got a chance of taking that place off Ricciardo.
Sergio Perez ahead of Sebastian Vettel, 5th against 6th. It's 6th now going up into 5th, breezing past like some strong Shanghai gust. Sebastian Vettel, even before they apply the brakes, makes the move down the inside as that's looking at Jenson Button there, making a move on Pascal Wehrlein, and he manages to get past the young rookie who'd never raced here in Shanghai before and probably has never had 14 laps in his driving career like the 14 laps he's had in Shanghai this morning.
Hamilton did not get anywhere near Ricciardo down that back straight. As it happened, this gang in front of them, there's trouble there, isn't it?
Certainly is. Manor on the inside, Toro Rosso on the outside, Carlos Sainz on Pascal Wehrlein. Sainz puts himself into 9th as we see that replay of Danny Kvyat and Felipe Massa, and this is how 3rd became 2nd, and Felipe Massa had to drop back. He's got his own former teammate Fernando Alonso behind him now. Could be Sebastian Vettel in a few moments, because there is Alonso cleared to race this weekend by the stewards, as Vettel right behind him. If Alonso wanted a thorough examination of his ribs, he's certainly got it in the opening laps here. And he's been able to get his elbows out a little bit, and hopefully showing no signs of discomfort.
Gustav, Sebastian, Gustav. Next is Alonso, and push hard, push hard.
And these two words you always want to hear, don't you? 42 laps to go, and Vettel's been told to push hard.
He got a much better exit off T13. Alonso going down the straight, looking in his mirrors. He was looking in the left, he'll look in the right. Now he can actually look alongside and trying to pick up the slipstream himself. Will he have a go on the braking?
Of course he's going to have a go back. Of course he's going to have a go. Fernando Alonso still says he's the best driver in Formula One if he's got the car to do it. And that just shows you that his fighting spirit is his mentality there, Martin. Knew he was going to lose the place, but thought, right, how can I try and get it back at least? And what was that just flew off the Ferrari?
I was just about to say, he's got some front wing, and that's from the contact with Valtteri Bottas. Yeah. So for the second time, he's lost that left front end plate. He's been an expensive employee this afternoon, one way and another, hasn't he? But you could see it sticking out the side, and all of a sudden, but it is off the racing line.
Kimi Raikkonen comes into the pits, as you can see, for what is his 2nd stop in this race. He had 13 laps on the soft tyre, and it's the mediums that are going on. And I just wonder if Ferrari had looked at Jenson Button's race pace here, Button on the medium tyres as well, and thought, track temperature's good here. The cold temperature starts to grain those mediums. It's 42 degrees, it's nice and warm. We could run Kimi for a nice long stint, and he'll have the pace to do it.
And they've got to go slightly contrary on the strategy as well, haven't they, with him out, basically fully out of position. Rosberg's lead only really 8 seconds over Kvyat. I thought it would stretch away more. Kvyat has stopped for tyres, Rosberg hasn't. Having said that, wow, we're only on lap 15. So much happened. Half of that was behind the safety car.
Just joining us, if you've just woken up, you have missed 15 utterly brilliant laps here, even behind the safety car in Shanghai. I'd like to tell you everything that's happened. Chances are the checker flag will be waving by the time that I've finished, but put it this way, contact between the two Ferraris at the start. Ricciardo getting into the lead ahead of Rosberg. Ricciardo then got a puncture, that's why he's now running down in 10th and trying to make up a few places. Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen making their way through the field. Hamilton had front wing damage as well. He has gone from last to mid-pack to last to now running in 11th place, and that flag warning the drivers as they come round the final turn that there are 2 large pieces of carbon fibre that they might just want to watch out for. 10.
You can see down the pit lane some Mercedes mechanics having a look, just getting ready, putting their goggles on. Now would be normally the time of the first of a 2-stop. Certainly if you're starting on the soft tyres like Rosberg is, I think they can extend that now for a little bit. So it's all playing into Rosberg's hands. Very comfortable on strategy as well as out on track. But right in front of me now, Renault are coming out as the Manor makes a pit stop as well. That's Wehrlein, but Renault are coming out. Not too bad for K-Mag at the moment. Well, not brilliant. P21 Palmer, I think K-Mag.
Thanks, Ted. On board with Lewis Hamilton. A double yellow, but way longer in the lap. Hamilton has just made the move on Jenson Button, his former teammate, and he's up into the top 10 now.
They would have double yellowed it to put a man on the track to pick up those pieces of Ferrari, because there's a great big space in front of Rosberg and all the way back to Palmer, where they were able to get rid of those pieces.
And they have.
I think the stewards will be looking at the front of that Ferrari, seeing there's other pieces just lodged in there, as to whether whether they force Ferrari to bring Vettel in and make them change that front wing.
Which is the last thing Sebastian Vettel would want at the moment, unless he can change it at his next pit stop. When did he come in, Sebastian Vettel, on lap 5 behind the safety car? He's had 11 laps since. might be thinking about coming in pretty soon anyway. As Valtteri Bottas back in 6th place at the moment, ahead of Fernando Alonso. Bottas making his way up through the field again after a poor start for him. The man who got the best start and then caused all the carnage behind him was Daniel Kvyat, who lined up 6th on the grid, saw the gap opening on the inside, went for it, much to Sebastian Vettel's non-amusement.
Well, he caused it, according to Sebastian Vettel, anyway.
Yeah.
But Alonso pits then. I thought he might have to shortly because he lost 2 places on that lap to Perez and Bottas. So clearly running out of grip on those soft tyres. Will they put a set of mediums on? Yes, they will, like they've done with Jensen, because they are working quite nicely. And of course, a little tweak of front wing to go with the different compound tyres.
And he comes out, Fernando Alonso, onto the racetrack ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, his former Ferrari teammate. Raikkonen also on the medium compound tyre at the moment. His last lap was a 1:42.0. Compare that to Danny Kvyat, 1:43.5 on the soft compound tyre.
Raikkonen's fastest man on the track.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's just put those medium compound tyres on, but working well for him. He'll want others to pit quite quickly. Here's the tyre strategy so far. If you're trying to note it all down, back at home, I would imagine that if you're using a pencil, you've worn down to the nubbins so far.
Well, white is the new fashion accessory this afternoon, isn't it, in terms of tyres?
Yes, white is the new yellow, and certainly not the red. It doesn't last very long here at all. There goes Sebastian Vettel, DRS, wide open. Felipe Massa ahead of him, but not by much. This, at the moment, is the scrap for the final podium place. We're on board now with Vettel. He's coming into the pits. So those super soft tyres are going to be replaced by a set of soft compound tyres. The yellow stripe I can see down in the pit lane waiting for the former world champion, former winner here of course as well.
No change of nose, look.
Out he goes.
Don't want to give that dozen seconds away.
That's Esteban Gutierrez, you can see just coming past the start line now. He'll go past Sebastian Vettel, as will Marcus Ericsson. Ferrari have got a nice little gap there with the Renault of Kevin Magnussen, the next car on the track. So he comes out, Sebastian Vettel, into 13th place on the racetrack after making his 2nd stop of the race. In Rosberg, lap 17 completed. We're on lap 18. Yes, we've had a safety car, but how much longer will those tyres of his last? His pace is good.
He's super consistent as well up front. You know, his last few laps.
There goes Vettel on Marcus Ericsson.
His last few laps are covered by 0.4 of a second, a lot of them in variation. So he's pacing himself nicely up front, is Nico Rosberg.
Nico Hülkenberg, meanwhile, under pressure from Max Verstappen. And the youngster putting enough pressure there on Hülkenberg for the German to lock up his brakes. Verstappen will think, yeah, cheers, make it easy for me.
It's unusual to see your outside front tyre, of course, when you're going into a corner lock up, but it's the outside front tyre that takes a lot of stick through turns 1 and 2 here, through 8 and through 12 and 13s, and that's the one that starts graining, as Ted was showing earlier on in the programme, and starts wearing out more quickly, and so that's the one that locks up into the hairpin as well.
That super consistency you mentioned for Nico Rosberg has now built in, as you can see, a 12.5 second gap. When you come into the pit, you're going to lose about 23 seconds of your race time. If he was to pit at the end of this lap, chances are Rosberg would still be in the top 5 in this race when he came back out again. He's one of 4 that haven't made a pit stop yet. Make that 3, because Sergio Perez has now come in. Rio Haryanto hasn't. Also Esteban Gutierrez.
Rosberg is going to feel in this race by himself because he's got nobody in his mirrors.
Hang on 2 seconds. Is that a little bit of carbon fibre damage there on the front of that Red Bull for Daniel Ricciardo? Or just something that he's picked up?
It looks like an inspection panel on the nose, doesn't it? That's come undone.
Yeah.
Can't help the aerodynamics too much, but it's not going to wreck it.
I wonder if it's, you know, the pitot tubes that sit upright at the front. I wonder if it's that. It's just
it's that inspection panel underneath it, isn't it? I think. Yeah, you can. I think anyway. Pitot, it's got a different shape to that, but Where was I? Yeah, Rosberg. Rosberg will see nobody down the back straight, nobody in his mirrors. He's on a completely clear piece of track. He'll be on the radio going, where's everybody this afternoon? So he can just pace those he can just keep going and going and going until he hits some kind of cliff, and then make sure he can at least pit and keep the lead.
I don't think he's hit the cliff yet. He lost about 4/10 on that last lap on lap 19.
Kvyat pits anyway,
exactly.
So
that takes any danger from Kvyat out of the equation, but that's not hitting a cliff, that's just a little bit of degradation. And Kvyat pits, Massa pits as well in this race. So where's Danny Kvyat going to come back out onto the racetrack? Probably behind Sebastian Vettel. There comes Vettel. He wants to get out ahead of him as Kvyat slots him behind the Toro Rosso, and he's now got Sebastian Vettel right on him as Daniel Ricciardo also pits, and Romain Grosjean at the same time.
Ricciardo's just done a new fastest lap of the race at 1:40.8. He's up and running on those soft tyres.
Now this is going to be interesting. Max Verstappen, Danny Kvyat, Sebastian Vettel. Kvyat's going to be the first to have a little go here on fresh tyres, of course. Vettel's going to go down the inside as well. He's going to have to watch himself a little bit. Verstappen wants to battle as hard as he can and keeps away from the Ferrari and keeps ahead of the Ferrari. Kvyat goes through. He's 5th, Verstappen 6th, Sebastian Vettel, as you can see, currently 7th.
Verstappen last pitted on lap 5, so that's why he was snaking around. He tried to get the power down out of 6 to keep the Ferrari behind him. Vettel really sticking his nose in lots of places today and knew better to get out of that one.
And currently fastest man on the track as well, has just set the fastest lap on his previous lap. Now, we'll fancy his chances, I think, getting some nice traction, good exit on the banking, the cambered right-hander of turn 13, and we'll fancy his chances against last year's Ferrari engine, of course, in that Toro Rosso. Sebastian Vettel now breezes past him as Kvyat goes past Jenson Button as well. And into the pits then, and out again, your race leader, Nico Rosberg. Well,
And softs, didn't bother with the mediums, because as soon as Kvyat pitted, it enabled him to pit and maintain the lead, which he has done in front of Valtteri Bottas there. And Ted's got more news.
Belt and braces, I'd call that, for Rosberg. Martin, I don't think his tyres had started to grain up. I think you're right, they were just covering off what everybody else was doing, and that's really all they need to do with Nico Rosberg today. But I'm just thinking of a strategy, Crofty, that could see Lewis Hamilton on the podium today, and thus win my bet with you. And that would be for Lewis to pit again on lap 35. If he can string this out for another 15 laps, I know that's asking quite a lot of these soft tyres, then he could only stop one more time and then go to the end. It's possible, unlikely, but possible.
Sebastian Vettel does manage to get Jenson Button. We'll watch the replay of how he got past Max Verstappen and how Kvyat got past Jenson Button a lap previously. The top 3 at the moment are Rosberg, Bottas and Hamilton. That doesn't necessarily mean Hamilton is going to get a podium here, because he's out of sync a little bit with his pit stops, but he is now at least into the podium places.
So we see that replay then, our position taken. Hülkenberg under investigation. You know, we saw Vettel, there it is now, coming up on your screen. We know we saw Vettel having to pass 2 cars before the speed limit. Hülkenberg was backing off so that his teammate could get service and then he could slot in, holding up others behind him, and you're not allowed to do that. So that was obviously intentional, the pace he was going at. So Hülkenberg under investigation.
But was he was actually in the pit lane? That's the thing, the pit lane speed limiter hadn't started by that stage. So had he got every right to go a little bit slower or not? I mean, I assume that's why they're going to investigate this after the race. And an unsafe release for Sergio Perez being investigated as well. That was in the melee that we saw behind the safety car. And Fernando Alonso gets passed by Carlos Sainz. There goes Daniel Ricciardo down the inside of Fernando Alonso as well, and almost touches the back of the Toro Rosso, but he kept it clean to Daniel Ricciardo, and he now makes another move and up into 11th place. Sainz is 10th, and that was Lewis Hamilton coming in for his latest pit stop number 4 for car 44.
And Hamilton will feed out behind that battle we just saw, including Sebastian Vettel.
Nico Hülkenberg has got a 5-second time penalty for driving unnecessarily slowly. His second penalty of the weekend. He had a grip penalty, of course, for his wheel falling off in qualifying, and now he's got a penalty for driving unnecessarily slowly.
You're not allowed to disadvantage others while it suits you to hang back a little bit at any point, because they say it's dangerous and it's unfair.
Well, Alan Jones, the driver steward for this weekend, and his two FIA colleagues have agreed that Hulkenberg needs that penalty. So it's Rosberg from Fiat and now Sebastian Vettel, the 1, 2, 3. Jenson Button and Sergio Perez at the top 5. Then Massa and Ericsson, Bottas, Sainz and Ricciardo the top 10. And a mix of pit stop strategies here, Ted, that I think we're only going to start to see how this race will properly evolve, you know, with about 10 or so laps to go, aren't we?
Well, I'm sure Mercedes will be disappointed that the soft tyre couldn't hang on for longer than that. So that means that it will be at least two more, or rather two stops, as we said, after the safety car for Lewis Hamilton. It might even still be 3, and he might end up making 6 today, but you never know. Just on Ferrari, Sebastian Vettel, again, still not having a good day. A little annoyed with his team. Just came over the team radio and said to them, look, guys, you should have let me know how close it was with, I think, Fiat.
Yeah.
How close is he now? Because he said, Vettel said, I could have pushed harder and then made it much closer at the pit stop.
On board with Daniel Ricciardo now as we complete for him what is lap 22 in this race. And he's got DRS assistance, and he was in 10th place. It was Daniel Ricciardo, and he quite fancies getting up into 9th, and looks like he's done that ahead of Carlos Sainz because he's got the inside line. Sainz will fight this for as long as he can, of course, but by the time the track swings to the left, there's at least a couple of car lengths in it, and it's in Ricciardo's favour.
They're running that Red Bull a bit skinny on rear downforce to give them extra straight line speed. Downforce equals drag, and so they're giving up a bit of that, and the car still handles well. It's got the most outrageous rear right out on that car. They fly it like the whole thing's a wing going through the air, and as soon as you see it in a hairpin, if I'm pointing out later on, the back end of the car, you can almost get on a trolley and get underneath and change its diff oil in the old days. But whatever they've done to the setup, it's quick down the straight and it's quick around the corners, is the Red Bull. Unfortunately for Ricciardo, that puncture put him right out of the reckoning where he should have been in.
Yeah, second time we'd seen a puncture like that caused to the by running over bits of debris. It's been quite a weekend though for punctures, for wheel rim failures. But the one thing you will always say about this Chinese Grand Prix is you don't get a huge amount of retirements. We've still got all 22 cars running here on lap 24. We only had 3 retire last year, 2 retired the year before that, 4 retired the year before that. Ricciardo's going for it on the Sauber here. DRS helping him, and he gets past Marcus Ericsson and up into 8th place. We only have 1 retirement, 2011 and 2012, so it's a track that tests the cars, tests the drivers, certainly tests the tyres, but we don't see a huge amount of retirements as a result of it. Chinese Grand Prix living up to all expectations, I think, so far in 2016. As there, the Sauber under pressure going into turn 1. He's lost another place. Carlos Sainz getting past Marcus Ericsson, and Ericsson now has Kimi Räikkönen, who's kind of the forgotten man of this race a little bit after losing his front wing round about that spot there in the right-hand side of your screen, turn 3. And is now just steadily, slowly but surely making his way through the field. But it's worth pointing out, Räikkönen, as he makes the move on Marcus Ericsson, running the medium compound tyre. Behind him, Lewis Hamilton, after his latest pit stop, is the next that will be pouncing upon the Swede with his Ericsson. Out in front, Rosberg has a 14-second advantage over Danny Kvyat. Kvyat under pressure from Sebastian Vettel, who's starting to gain on him. We're watching now at McLaren, Force India and Williams, Button, Perez and Massa. 3 sets of tyres used for Sergio Perez so far. Button's been in once and Massa in once as well.
But struggling for pace, and I put those mediums on lap 5, 20 laps to go, and he's really beginning to struggle for absolute pace.
It's running in 4th place at the moment on the track, and cutting out the need for an extra pit stop on running those mediums. The key is, will they try medium compound tyre again for Jenson Button possibly when he pits next, or do they feel they still might need to stop a couple more times because we've still got 31 laps to go here?
He hasn't started quite the trend I thought he would, in terms of Mercedes certainly didn't want to follow it, did they? I mean, they put Lewis out now on used softs. He had some new mediums available, didn't he? He had 1 set of new mediums, Lewis.
Yep. Went into this, yes, he had 1 set of new. no sets of use because he only brought one set to the race with him. That goes Felipe Massa on Jenson Button we were just talking about. Massa leaves the door open slightly, but all of those tyres now struggling a bit for grip, can't take advantage. We switch now to Lewis Hamilton, who's dispatched Marcus Ericsson, who's running in 11th place, and it's Kimi against Lewis. It's a fight we thought we might see at some stage. Didn't really expect to see it for 10th and 11th.
I think we should think about the alternative strategy, to be honest, guys. Think about it.
We're already on it. We're already on it.
So confusing that it's difficult for everybody to keep up, let alone the drivers themselves. And he has a 5-second time penalty, just to confirm that. So when he next comes into the pits, Nico Hulkenberg will stay stationary for 5 seconds before anybody can do any work to change the tyres.
So one Force India in the points at the moment with Perez, and one just outside, struggling in 14th, Hulkenberg, with yet to take that penalty as well for good measure. So it's not worked out too well for him this afternoon. Raikkonen just into the points with Hamilton behind him. There they are. And as Ted said, I'm surprised that Lewis couldn't get a bit further on those previous set of tyres. You've got to go and nurse them a bit, haven't you, around here? And I think Lewis is in the nursing mood.
On the inside, Valtteri Bottas has Sergio Perez just ahead of him, and Sergio Perez cutting across the track to make sure that Bottas can't get past. In 7th place, the Finn. Jenson Button's going to be struggling and pushed wide to the outside by Perez, and they're going to go wheel to wheel now, down towards the hairpin. Bottas on the inside, Button in the middle, Perez round the outside, Button still stays ahead. His former teammates at McLaren, Sergio Perez, you remember they had a few tangles when they were teammates. They're getting close again here. Well done Jenson Button for sticking in there. Well done Sergio Perez for swooping round the outside. Great driving from both.
Jenson's got all the grip of oiled oak out there at the moment, but he's making his McLaren as wide as he can.
Jenson Button in what is his 287th Formula One Grand Prix.
You're getting the hang of this soon.
Yeah. As Valtteri Bottas now right behind him in his 59th Grand Prix.
So you can only assume then, as Rosberg does a new fastest lap out front with a 17-second lead, you can only assume they're hoping to get Jenson to the point where they can stop just one more time for another set of mediums as he gets mugged down the back straight.
Yeah, in broad daylight, with millions watching, and it really wasn't a contest, was it, on that particular occasion? So Valtteri Bottas puts his Williams up in the 6th, and right behind Jenson Button now is the ever-advancing and ever-closing Daniel Ricciardo. Out in front, 18.7 seconds, covers 1st and 2nd. Just to remind you, Nico Rosberg is still in this race, is still leading this race in his bid to win the first 3 races in 2016. 200 plus miles an hour. Valtteri Bottas applies the brakes and he's ahead of Jenson Button. So now it's Perez against Bottas, which might be a little more of an even contest. Perez stopping on lap 18 to change his tyres. Bottas 3 laps later. As Nico Hulkenberg, Sergio Perez's teammate, now comes in for what will be a rather longer stop because of his 5-second penalty. And Ricciardo has got past Jenson Button. So how much longer can they carry on with this, Martin, before it really starts to affect his race?
I guess he's racing for the tail end of the point, really, isn't he, with Jenson? But he's 7th at the moment, one more stop and a decent run to the end. But what's going to get interesting anytime soon is Vettel is catching the man he described as suicidal on the first lap of this race. And Daniel Kvyat, they're a second apart. He's in the DRS zone and has been catching him 1/4 second per lap recently. So that might get personal, shall we say.
And interesting. Ted, down to you.
Force India serving its penalty there, but I fancy putting on the medium tyres, Hulkenberg did, Crofty, and he's going to try and go to the end.
Right.
And that would be ambitious, but not impossible. What is it, 29 laps towards the end?
Yes.
On a tyre that can only do 25, we thought.
Jenson Button is being reeled in here. 2 seconds, Ted, like a lost fish in a sea of anglers, and he's coming into the pits now as well, and we've seen that coming, I think, for a couple of laps now. So Raikkonen had already moved past him. Hamilton back up into the top 10 again as Button now makes his pit stop. Can he go to the end of the race if he's put the medium compound tyre on? And the thing is that if the track temperature starts to drop, that affects these medium tyres. They start to grain and makes that strategy one that you can't complete. So this is how Ricciardo got past Button, just coming out of the hairpin at turn 6, and you can see the struggles that Jensen was having.
I wouldn't want to be cutting the highlight show today. For our Sky Boys back at base, which bit would you cut out? We're only just reached half distance. It's mad, but Raikkonen and Hamilton now both into the points, and Vettel up to third, despite all of their stories of the afternoon so far.
Jensen Button has got medium compound tyres on. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton has got a full view of the Ferrari rear wing, and he quite fancies Kimi Raikkonen here. Well, fancies getting past him, certainly. Sergio Perez under pressure from Daniel Ricciardo. Then comes Carlos Sainz, then Raikkonen, and then Lewis Hamilton. 4-time Chinese Grand Prix winner, 7 times he's been on the podium here. If he was to make it 8 podiums in China today, that would be quite a heroic effort. Here goes Daniel Ricciardo, was leading this race right at the start, got DRS assistance, he's onto the marbles, he has to. So he wants to get past Sergio Perez, and does. Daniel Ricciardo now into 6th place. Behind them comes Sainz and Raikkonen and Hamilton. And Hamilton finding that there isn't that much pace difference between the Ferrari and the Mercedes, and he can't get past, but here comes young Max Verstappen on Fernando Alonso. And there is a bit of a difference between last year's Ferrari engine and the McLaren Honda engine. And Alonso has to concede, lose a place. He's 12th, Verstappen now 11th.
Rip-off coming off the visor there of Kimi Raikkonen straight towards his rival behind him, Lewis Hamilton.
Perez is putting the medium tyres on as well. I wonder if Force India think, yeah, now we're in the window where 27 laps to go. We can get these medium tyres to the end of the race as well.
Jensen with more fuel on board, of course, but got 23 laps out of his, but you have to say the last 3 or 4 were a struggle.
How wide is he going to be able to make his car if there are others attacking him on faster tyres at the end? The trouble Hamilton's got here, Martin, is Carlos Sainz, not just Kimi Raikkonen, because Raikkonen's getting DRS as well to help him get past Sainz.
Good point.
And that's obviously keeping the Ferrari ahead, as you can see. What Hamilton would like, I'm sure, is Sainz to get out of the way. Sure that's going to happen any time soon. Last stop's on lap 19, but he is on the soft compound tyre.
They have to just protect their left front through here a little bit. They cannot take all the speed that's available to them. The left front tyre will give up too early, so they have to give a little bit away there for an overall benefit, which is one of the things the drivers say they don't like. They want to be able to drive flat out all the time. The trouble is, when we go back to those, if we went back to those days, there was very little overtaking went with it.
Yeah. Well, we didn't see much hanging around in the early stages of this race.
But I think they're always, what frustrates, they're always wary of it, of having, the fuel's not been anything like the issue we feared it might with this limitation of 100 kilograms.
He is what?
Will.i.am.
Will he won't?
So he's obviously responding to something. There's much less.
If they just said to him, push, Lewis, push.
Okay, so just give it everything you got, mate.
I am.
Okay, yeah. Because as you can see that Raikkonen is just starting to maybe pull ahead a little bit as well. Or maybe what they need, Mercedes, if Sainz is a bit of a problem because Raikkonen's getting the DRS assistance, then it needs Hamilton to keep the pace with it, so he can then go and challenge Sainz once Raikkonen gets past. But as you rightly say, Martin, you start running closely to the car in front for too long, you are going to start to chew your tyres. If you remember, if you were watching last year's race here, where Nico Rosberg was complaining that Lewis was going too slow and backing almost Rosberg into Sebastian Vettel, you didn't want to be running that closely because it does affect you.
But as Lewis was quite know why we need so much helicopter noise in the show, but I have to turn my volume down up here. But I think that's also a cue for Lewis to turn up in other words, that's you want to run some more power.
Yeah.
Go for it.
You can do it. You're not going to be fuel limited. Right, there he is on the inside, and they are the medium compound tyres coming out now. I wonder if that is for Nico Rosberg. Who's just looking here. No, it will be for Hamilton. They're going to switch his strategy a little bit here. I just wondered, Rosberg had built himself up a pit stop advantage over Danny Kvyat, but in comes Hamilton. Medium compound tyres going on. The Mercedes think with 25 laps to go, that's it. We don't want to be making 6 pit stops. We'll get you to the end of the race on just the 5.
Push as hard as you can is, and it obviously displeased him a little bit, but that's the old equivalent of hammer time, isn't it? Right, go for it now, because we're about to call you in. Much limited on the radio calls. I mean, I must admit, I used to get a bit frustrated qualifying, because every time I tried to explain anything of any reasonable length, we got interrupted by team radio. Not all of it was super relevant. It's a bit too far the other way. It's rather quiet, isn't it? We don't get to hear too much between the pit wall and the cars, and I'm missing a little bit of it, because I think it gives you another dimension to the race.
Here's a question as well. Lewis Hamilton started on softs, Martin, pitted for super softs, went to softs, now to mediums, or softs and then to mediums. Did they need to make that super soft change, or did they need to at that time, and have now thought, actually, the way this race is unfolding, we can switch strategy again? Was this part of the plan? Have they reacted to it? Did he lose anything by making that super soft stop? And he was behind the safety car.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, my feeling is that whatever they've tried to do hasn't really quite worked out. Hasn't given them that forward movement that they were expecting in Hamilton. And every time he's gone back out, Hamilton, he's hit a lot of traffic. It's not quite so bad this time. He's got Jenson Button ahead of him now, and then a bit of free space. But
well, good morning to you back in the UK. If you're just waking up and you're just joining us, it has been an hour of scintillating racing here in Shanghai. It really has. That is the man in the Red Bull, Danny Kvyat, and the man in the Ferrari, Sebastian Vettel, who are currently running second and third, who tangled at the first corner. Sebastian Vettel blaming Danny Kvyat for the crash. The crash then saw Vettel and Raikkonen make contact. It started a chain reaction that involved Lewis Hamilton as well. Vettel sustained damage to his front wing. Raikkonen lost a front wing. Hamilton lost a front wing as well. Romain Grosjean and Felipe Nasser also got caught up in the incident. Out ahead of that, Daniel Ricciardo had got ahead of Nico Rosberg. Ricciardo then suffered a puncture. That then puts him back to the rear of the field. And throughout it all, since, Nico Rosberg has continued to lead and dominate this Chinese Grand Prix. Vettel is going to renew hostilities, the way he's been talking, shall we say, with Danny Kvyat in a few moments' time. We have had overtakes galore and more pit stops than Ted Kravitz was counting sheep to try and get to sleep last night. I've never seen so many in the first half of a race, Ted.
Yeah, it's all good stuff, isn't it? And watch out for Sebastian Vettel's next pit stop. I fancy he might try the undercut on Kvyat ahead of him. I've been studying Vettel's lap times, and I've been down to the Ferrari garage. They say that they're pretty equivalent, even with all the front wing damage that Sebastian Vettel has got on. He's managing to keep up with Kvyat, but he doesn't have the pace to pass the Red Bulls, especially the Red Bull so good in the slow corners. But Ferrari have got a plan up their sleeve. Let's see if they execute it.
Well, let's see what the plan is here. DRS assistance along the main straight then for Sebastian Vettel. Danny Kvyat's going to have to watch himself here as they turn right-handed into turn 1 from over 190 miles an hour, say, into round about 130 miles an hour as they make that first turn. Going a little bit wider there, Sebastian Vettel on the medium compound tyre. So Kimi Raikkonen now. Carlos Sainz, Toro Rosso ahead of Ferrari. Penny for his thoughts. Maurizio Arrivabene on that pit wall.
Alonso just pitted for the last time as well.
Just about to say, Lewis Hamilton there just switching over, Martin, to the right-hand side of the track and getting very, very close indeed to Esteban Gutierrez, the car that was behind him, in front of him, now behind him.
It's Lewis's party piece, isn't it? Flash underneath, but it has cost him a bit of front wing in the distant pass. It's going to be going very deep there in 11.
Raikkonen stopped on lap 14 for these medium compound tyres. So he's had 20 laps on these tyres 25, they reckon, is about the lifespan of them.
Well, Lewis said to Johnny on the track, I want to just make sure I get some points this afternoon. You know, keep as much control in the championship race as I can. And that's what he's aiming at the moment. He might be down in 13th, but his pace is extremely good. 140.6, far and away the fastest man out on the track last lap around. He has to be careful not to, like opening a bag of sweeties, eating all his favourite ones first on those tyres. He's going to have to pace them.
Carlos Sainz has pitted for Toro Rosso, the man who suffered way more retirements in the early stages of his Formula One career than you would wish on any driver, but certainly today on the track, after what was his 7th retirement in 14 Grand Prix in Bahrain, has proved what a fine young talent he certainly is. Raikkonen will be very glad indeed that he's finally pitted, though. Just looking at where Hamilton is on the track, Martin, those ahead of him, Perez, will be going to the end of the race, also on the medium compound tyre. Bottas, Massa, Verstappen, expecting them to pit again.
Push harder, Sebastian, push harder now.
Maybe not Verstappen, but you're right. He's going to, Bottas, Perez, Sainz Jr., where is he? He's ahead of him, isn't he? Yeah. He's just pitted, mind you. But, yeah, Lewis is going to have to do some overtaking to get a reasonable number of points.
Can Sebastian Vettel push hard in the way that Ferrari need him to? He's just lost a touch a little bit. As you mentioned a few laps ago, he was within DRS range. That is now not the case.
Been a great afternoon for Danny Kvyat, hasn't it? He's had a difficult first part of the season to some extent, and he's certainly kept out of trouble and been very fast all afternoon.
Well, he said Bahrain came at the right time for him as well when he went from 15th to 7th there. Sergio Perez now at this time has Lewis Hamilton behind him, going past him as well. Hamilton down the inside at the hairpin, had to get onto the marbles, and just enough grip coming out of that hairpin ahead of Sergio Perez to keep ahead for the Mercedes. Now he's up into 9th, and he will need to push even harder. Ahead of him, Valtteri Bottas, and the gap between Hamilton and Bottas round about 4 seconds as they cross the line. Jenson Button, who was running in the top 4 at one stage since his pit stop dropped back a bit, but currently a very respectable 11th, has Carlos Sainz behind him. Sainz has just pitted. There is Fernando Alonso in the McLaren. Alonso currently running in 13th. Nico Hülkenberg, who had a 5-second time penalty, that's dropped him back ahead of Kevin Magnussen now, and Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber. Double points finished Sauber here this time last year. Not looking good for them this season. And the state of the Rosberg tyres.
A little bit graining in the middle of that front left. The inside, the rough patch on the inside is just pickup of old rubber. That won't help the efficiency of the front wing, but it's not the end of the world as long as it doesn't go in the radiator ducts. But even then, they've got some pretty clever guards that at least direct it to a less critical place, but not the sort of thing you want in your airbox or your radiators. But Rosberg, Mercedes can stop Rosberg whenever they fancy it, especially now. Kvyat and Vettel behind him, so he's got a 47-second gap to Ricciardo, where he can slot in a pit stop, has Nico Rosberg.
So easy when you're out in front and all the chaos is happening behind you. So the crews get to work, and how has that helped either? A 2.9 second stop for Kvyat, a 2.5 second stationary time for Sebastian Vettel. Kimi Raikkonen comes through just ahead of Sebastian Vettel, and he'll pressurise Kvyat here and can do something to help his teammate a bit.
Just to explain what a crazy race this is, these are the three that ran into each other in the first corner. They've had some different strategies since then, haven't they, between them?
And this time, Raikkonen moves out of the way of Vettel, and on completely different strategies, Ferrari have made that. Corners down the inside almost. Sebastian Vettel getting the opportunity there. Kvyat was on the brakes a little bit earlier, I think, than Sebastian Vettel, and certainly the Ferrari closing at quite a rate. Meanwhile, Ted, the Mercedes mechanics out into the pit lane.
Yeah, indeed, that was quite interesting with Kvyat and Vettel, because I don't know if they heard us that we said that Vettel might try to undercut, but they covered it off nicely, Red Bull.
He certainly did.
Do you reckon, the question is, can Vettel get those tyres to the end of the race? 20 laps on a set of softs?
It's round about the right window. Smoking brakes there on the front of the Mercedes for Nico Rosberg. He has made his pit stop, and only the lapped cars have gone through past the start-finish line, and he will retain his lead when he gets back onto the racetrack. Meanwhile, the battle for third place now on the soft tyre. There goes Sebastian Vettel, and he has taken Danny Kvyat, but Kvyat might just come back down the inside. Vettel cuts him off. About half a metre between the two cars as they get to the apex of the hairpin. The crowd like that, you could certainly hear the cheering, and Sebastian Vettel would have liked that because there was no contact this time around.
Despite what he said about him on the first lap, he put a lot of faith that Danny Kvyat wasn't going to lock his brakes up there and wipe him out of the race. So, and often, if you take somebody's viewpoint like that, you do two things. They lose their reference points, and they lose some front downforce as well. So the chance of locking their front wheels are even greater. You have to be really careful when you start swooping in front of other drivers.
What I think is going to be fascinating now, though, is what sort of a gap can Vettel build on Danny Kvyat on the soft tyre, Kvyat on the medium, before the softs start to go off and Kvyat comes back at him maybe with about 5 laps to go. It's possible that we might have part 3 of the scrap of the day. I know we all vote for driver of the day, but this could be scrap of the day between these three. It's a trilogy in the making, shall we say. Out in front, shadow boxing all on his own, Nico Rosberg, as we see the replay of Sebastian Vettel and Danny Kvyat.
So Vettel pretty much made his mind up with that kind of speed advantage. He was going left anyway. As Kvyat went to the middle to try to defend, a little bit forlornly, it must be said. The gap is pulled.
Daniel Ricciardo now ahead of Sebastian Vettel as Nico Rosberg completes lap 13.7. I just want to mention that because Ricciardo is the man running second at the moment on the road. So
what do you think on a set of softs for 20 laps, Ted?
Well, I can tell you Ferrari think they can get to the end on it. In fact, when I spoke to the Ferrari guy, he was like, oh, the Mercedes didn't manage to do many laps on the soft, did they? He didn't say it that way, obviously, but he's right. I mean, Lewis only did, what, 12?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the beginning of the unravelling of his strategy, wasn't it? Because it rendered that early safety car stop to clear out his requirement to use both compounds, or rather a change of compounds, to put on the red stripes, super soft, and then take them off again. Useless in the end. Needless, rather, in the end. Well, they went to that.
Ricciardo and Raikkonen both pitting at the same time there for what should be their final stop in this race, and what was their third pit stop in this race. Back out onto the track they come, and ahead of Fernando Alonso. So in 12th place, Kimi Raikkonen. Daniel Ricciardo is 9th. They managed to get the Red Bull out a little bit sooner because he was ahead of the Ferrari when they first came in, but they put soft compound tyres on Kimi and mediums on Daniel Ricciardo.
You're going to be racing quite a few cars in this next stint, but we know you can do it.
Dave Greenwood, Kimi Raikkonen's race engineer. Ferrari and Kimi are now down in what, 12th place. Your target is still maybe top 6 in this race. Others will be pitting, of course. Down in front, Rosberg sets another fastest lap of this race.
It's the new way, isn't it? It's a few facts and a little hug, and off you go from your engineer.
It's what they need, you know. The marbles on either side of the track there. Verstappen in 4th place ahead of Massa. Then comes Bottas and Hamilton right behind them. The 4 cars all on the medium compound tyre. Is there a way past for Felipe Massa? His tyres are much fresher than Max Verstappen's. 11 laps difference in Massa's favour. Not this time, but he's still got a bit more DRS assistance. 140.4, the fastest lap for Rosberg so far. As he gains it into turn 1, the door is half open, but he's too far back, Felipe Massa, to make a move on this particular occasion. Hamilton just biding his time at the back of his quartet.
Rosberg obviously slightly nervous of his 27-second lead then. You know, he felt the need to put a set of the slowest tyres there are and pop a new fastest lap in. He's having a whale of a time up front. Just left Joey and Palmer. In fact, that's the only car to be lapped now then. There's Joey Palmer, who's at the back with Magnussen, Kevin Magnussen, his teammate, unfortunately, for Renault.
I can't believe we haven't had any retirements today at all, given the racing that we've had. It's brilliant that we've still got 22 cars out on the track. Bottas under pressure from Hamilton here, going through into turn 10. Is Hamilton close enough, I wonder, to have a little dart down the inside at turn 11, or will he just bide his time and wait for the hairpin at turn 14? That'll be coming up soon. Verstappen under a little bit of pressure as well, ahead of Massa, who once again leads his teammates in a race and has been ahead of Valtteri Bottas for most of this season.
It looks like a podium might be out for Lewis, but 4th place is highly possible if he can get those tyres to the end of the race, and they should comfortably go there. So Lewis looking solid then.
And there goes on Max Verstappen, Felipe Massa down the inside of the hairpin. They're all concertinaing up. Hamilton has to go wide a little bit. Verstappen is taken for 4th place by Felipe Massa. And now he's got to look and see another Williams in his wing mirrors as well. This time it's Valtteri Bottas. And at the end of this quartet, Daniel Ricciardo, I think, is also gaining on them as well. We're riding on the main straight with Lewis Hamilton, who has made up 15 places from his starting grid position. And round the outside, he's going at turn 1. Not quite close enough, but he'll try and hang on in there if he can, as it just tightens up, tightens up, tightens up. You've got to be patient, but you can't get past.
Sorry, Crawford. Yeah, this is all about turn 6. It's not really about turn 2 and 3. It's positioning himself to be quick out of here and then nail the braking zone in the 6. He's a little bit too far behind, and he was just trying to get himself a nice... He wasn't imagining he could get through there, but it didn't quite work out because the Williams is a bit too good. So you're watching then 4th, 5th and 6th, and we don't expect either of those 3 to have to pit again.
And Ricciardo on soft tyres behind them. He shouldn't need to pit again as well. There goes Lewis Hamilton down the inside on Valtteri Bottas. Don't often see cars being overtaken there at turn 9. This time around, Hamilton with an opportunist move says, yeah, I'll have a little bit this time around. Thank you very much, Valtteri Bottas. And Ricciardo, well, on the medium compound tyre, but fresher medium compound tyre rubber behind. And Ricciardo fancies a little nibble at Valtteri Bottas's rear wing as well. So Massa 4th, Hamilton 5th, Bottas 6th, and Ricciardo 7th now.
Hamilton had to make that kind of move because Ricciardo's tyres are 7 laps younger, and he's coming at them. Hamilton has to get on with it.
And there goes Ricciardo down the inside on Bottas. Into the hairpin he goes. The man who led at the start of this race has now popped his Red Bull up into 6th place as he tries to recover from that puncture that he had. It's around about lap 5 or 6 in this race, and a puncture that really dented his chances of a win. I mean, on pure pace, Rosberg would probably have gone on to taking it anyway, but certainly Ricciardo was on for a podium finish. Lock up there by Hamilton, but he kept it under control, Martin.
It's not actually an overtaking place, but well, it wasn't, but it is now.
He just spied that he got better traction from the corner behind, and there's half a gap.
Very opportunist. Oh, look at that. Nice bit of oversteer to collect up as well, meanwhile, and great skill from both of them there.
Certainly was. Out in front, the gap, 27 seconds between the other Mercedes and the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel. And the gap now between Vettel and Hamilton, 2nd and 5th, is roughly 20 seconds, shall we say. But Hamilton obviously stuck in a bit of traffic at the moment, unlike Sebastian Vettel, who just managed to lap Jolyon Palmer. There's the Ferrari of Kimi Raikkonen, has Sergio Perez just ahead of him.
And whatever they've done with Hamilton's, having been through the pits 5 times now, at least it's got him ahead of Raikkonen, hasn't it? Because they were at the back of the field, if you remember. But I think Ricciardo and Hamilton could be very interesting as well at the end of the race. Depends how quickly and if they can dispatch this young man, Felipe Massa.
And Sebastian Vettel, remember, on the soft tyres. He'll be under pressure from Kvyat at the end as Kimi Raikkonen gets past Sergio Perez. He's now running 8th in this race, and we go back a couple more places as Carlos Sainz on Jenson Button into the hairpin. Sainz was brave and he was bold going down there as well, but Jenson Button left enough room, and Sainz, with a very nice piece of overtaking, took advantage of it. How much room has Hamilton got here to try and get past Felipe Massa? Once again, as you say, Martin, setting himself up for the hairpin, but do you know what? He's really going to have to be careful here because Daniel Ricciardo right behind Hamilton. If Hamilton gets this wrong, Ricciardo's down on the inside and we might see Massa lose 2 places.
Yeah, if Lewis leaves the barn door open like that, Ricciardo be through there like a great white Aussie shark.
He should get out of my way.
Is that for blue flag avoidance by Jolyon Palmer? Danny Kvyat's right behind him at the moment. Not happy.
Ricciardo's got the quicker package on those tyres. In this moment in history, Hamilton's got his hands full now, slipping back from the Williams a little bit. It's, I don't know if he scooped up more damage when that wing went underneath the car, whatever, but whatever they've tried on that car this afternoon just hasn't gone forward at the rate we thought it would.
42 laps completed for Nico Rosberg. It looks a glorious sight. If he can see any timing screens, he's nearly half a minute ahead of everybody else. All the action going on behind him. Rosberg waiting for someone to join him at the moment, but they're not. Sebastian Vettel is in second place. Danny Kvyat is currently in third, and this is the scrap for fourth, for fifth, and for sixth. Massa trying to hold on for fourth. Hamilton and Ricciardo trying to get past him. And how is it going to unfold now as we head across the line and towards turn one? Verstappen has just put in a new fastest lap of the race after his pit stop in the Toro Rosso. Massa's looking to his left, trying to find out where Hamilton is. He's slotted right behind him there, couldn't make the move into turn one. And we're setting ourselves up once again for another little hairpin battle at turn six.
We are. Hamilton, he's got a problem. He can't afford to throw away championship points, but he's going to have to take a bold move against that Williams and Massa if he can keep Ricciardo behind him.
Ricciardo's going to have a go here. Down the inside goes Danny Ricciardo on Lewis Hamilton, and it was there for the taking. Glorious stuff there from the Aussie, looking a much more competitive package on the medium tyre than the Mercedes at the moment. Ricciardo goes up into fifth. He put those tyres on lap 37. Hamilton on
lap 30.
Lap 30. That's why he had the traction coming out of turn four, was able under braking to make the move.
Yeah, our chart only has up to 4 pit stops on it. There's another column up there for the 5th stop of Lewis.
He has made more pit stops than anyone else today. Let's just have another little look at Daniel Ricciardo down the inside. I think Hamilton knew it was coming, knew he couldn't fight it.
Yeah. He left a sliver of a door open, and he didn't need, Ricciardo did not need a second invitation to that particular part.
Might fancy a second overtake here though. In the space of a lap, there goes Daniel Ricciardo down the inside of Felipe Massa, and he's put himself up into fourth. He's finished fourth in the opening 2 races this season, Daniel Ricciardo, and he is currently fourth of 22 runners as we start lap 44 here in China this afternoon. Ted, down to you.
I'm actually down in the Williams garage. They're also now under attack with Bottas from Kimi. Kimi's been 2 seconds a lap quicker. Can you see it now?
Can now, going into turn one, yes.
Kimi's been 2 seconds a lap quicker per lap for the last 5 or 6 laps.
Well, let's ride on board then with Kimi Räikkönen. Started third on the grid, currently running in 8th after tangling with his teammate in the opening couple of corners. Trying to salvage something from it now. 7th place is there for the taking. One Finn in the Williams against one Finn in the Ferrari, and unlike Russia, where they tangled and hit each other towards the end of the race, this time Kimi manages to make the pass on Valtteri Bottas without any contact, and up into 7th he goes.
A touch of deja vu there. Did Kimi have an accident around the outside of turn 5 against somebody there and spear off a few years back? But anyway, he's got that job done, and I think he's going to cruise up and spoil Hamilton's day as well.
Gamble by Mercedes to put Hamilton on the mediums when they did. A gamble that they had to take, I wonder. But is he starting now to show signs that they're not going to get to the end of the race? Those medium compound tyres and keep him competitive. And is there anything they can do about it on that Mercedes pit wall to try and maybe put another set of super softs on and salvage something from it?
Pieces could be missing altogether, but you can't see anything hanging off the bottom of that car. We know it ran over its own front wing and went across the gravel, didn't it, in turn 3 of the first lap. But Hamilton in traffic. We have wondered how good this Mercedes car is in traffic. Rosberg hasn't really had to find out, has he, today? Hamilton certainly has. And once again, that car does not seem to go forward when it's following another car quite so well as it should.
It's a very good point. Mercedes say there isn't a problem, but you could argue that there might be. This is Danny Kvyat, and we heard him on the radio saying that Jolyon Palmer should get out of the way a little bit. There you can see Danny Kvyat reminding Palmer himself. Colourful language to go with some colourful flags.
Yeah, I guess he's trying to talk to the race steward as well, but all that shows to me is he's just losing his head a little bit at that point. It's gaining him nothing with one arm outside the cockpit, and he'll learn. He needs a result. Result's on its way. Bit of frustration, slightly overheated head there, but he's still comfortably at the moment ahead of Ricciardo, by 16 seconds, and is on the podium.
All things being equal, Red Bull should pick up their first podium of the season. You would imagine it will be Danny Kvyat that gets it, even though Ricciardo has now freed himself of traffic. He's still a fairly long way behind, around about 15 seconds behind. Hamilton and Massa here, still a battle that needs to unfold and to try and work its way out. And if he's got trouble behind Massa when he's following him, if he can get past Hamilton, we'll see what the difference is. He just had a little dart there to the right, and I think Felipe Massa covered it off so that Hamilton couldn't get past, but he's going around the outside here, now has to slot in behind.
There's a wise old head on Felipe, so he'll not start darting around, but he's a little bit slow out of fourth. This gives Lewis a chance, but he doesn't want to go around the outside, he's got to go down the inside, there's enough space. And he doesn't choose to go that way. Can he sort of cut back underneath him? No, because he doesn't have the traction to do it. Surprised Lewis didn't stick with the right-hand side of the track there.
Good defensive driving by Felipe Massa there.
Trouble is, they're slowing each other down now.
There they are. But so, what will Hamilton do again, I wonder? He got past Bottas down here, didn't he? He's locked up again. Can he get past Felipe Massa on this occasion? Oh, and they so nearly made contact going through turn 10. Kimi Raikkonen, as you rightly point out, Martin, with these two holding each other up, now fancies to go himself into turn 11 because the opportunity was there. And as it is, after 4 or 5 eventful corners, still Massa 5th, still Hamilton 6th, still Raikkonen 7th. But look how Raikkonen is right on Hamilton's tail now as they start the long 1 kilometre back straight here. Switches out to the right-hand side. Just Kimi Raikkonen under braking. Can he force a way down the inside past the Mercedes? Hamilton knows he's coming, goes a little bit wide there. And in the end, maybe took avoiding action as Kimi Raikkonen forced Hamilton to the left-hand side. Hamilton then still stuck around the wide outside and had to go even wider as Raikkonen pushed that Ferrari past and up into 6th place.
Quite possibly, and as a big fan of his, that's the worst lap I've ever seen Lewis Hamilton drive in a Formula 1 car. He just did not position his car well, and he's paid the price for it.
Just looked at me, he knew Kimi was coming, left him way too much room and then offered him a bit more.
Yeah, Kimi was sort of loitering. He wasn't committing to that move, although it's very easy when you're on a high camera point like that and not looking in a tiny little vanity mirror that's shaking around on the side of your cockpit, especially on a Mercedes-Benz, where they set them incredibly high for aerodynamics, presumably.
I mean, Kimi's got fresher tyres as well, of course. Talking of fresher tyres, Jenson Button, who's just pitted for the 3rd time in this race and is on the Super Softs and set the fastest lap of the race. But, I mean, this is what it looks like now, on board.
It's a little bit sort of after you, sir. Now after you. Now after you. And Kimi with the extra grip got the traction.
He got the place. And it all started because Hamilton tried to get past Felipe Massa here and just couldn't quite squeeze up on the inside. Much to Daddy Massa's delight in the Williams garage. Ted, down to you.
Let's pick up on the McLaren strategy. Nice roll of the dice at the end for Jenson Button, pitting and putting on the super soft. Alonso's trying to hold it out to the end on the medium.
Hang on 2 seconds, Ted. Kimi Raikkonen's just got past Felipe Massa. He's gone from 7th now to 5th, and the boss and all his chums at the back of the Ferrari garage rather like that one. Carry on, Ted.
Yeah, no, obviously with Kimi Raikkonen and Lewis, much fresher tyres, as you said. Nice, fresh, soft tyres.
So Ferrari at the moment running 2nd and running 5th. Mercedes running 1st and 7th in the battle between the two teams that should be scrapping out the Constructors' Championship. But we just saw the Drivers' Championship points. What a day for Nico Rosberg this is really turning into. Came here, Martin, with a 17-point lead and is extending that way beyond his possible wildest expectations, I would have thought, at the start of this weekend.
And he's barely had to break into a sweat, but the season's young and we know how quickly that can turn around, and Nico Rosberg from 2014 knows just how quickly and how often it can turn around.
Romain Grosjean on his 30th birthday now has the fastest lap of the race. Not sure he'll be winning driver of the day today, though.
Should be a point for it, shouldn't it? Should be a point for the fastest lap of the race and a point for pole. The reason they don't do it is they're always concerned that, you know, on a Saturday for pole or during a race, a World Championship can be won before the end of the race just by dint of a random point. But I think the chance of that happening are pretty slim. Once in a blue moon, maybe, and so be it if it does, because it can happen with an engine failure or a contact in turn one.
Hamilton looking at the hairpin on Felipe Massa. Do you know what the opportunity is there, though? Because Massa went a little bit wider than he would normally expect, and I wonder if both of these two are now starting to struggle for grip on these medium compound tyres. They've been on for around about 18, 19 laps, the pair of them, going towards turn one. It's a DRS zone, but you're kind of lifting off the throttle, not really putting the brakes on. And certainly Massa struggling there to keep the Williams through the line he would want through turns 2 and now 3 and 4. Valtteri Bottas has just been detached a little bit from this particular battle. He's got Perez and Verstappen right behind him, completing the points up ahead. Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Kvyat, Vettel and Rosberg, the leader.
Verstappen on fresh tyres, but on a lap 39's got a chance of coming at Perez, possibly even Valtteri Bottas as well. And he just passed his teammate.
And Danny Kvyat now 4 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel.
Come back to me, come back to me. Yeah.
Track temperature's gone down about 4 degrees. And these medium tyres are susceptible to changes in temperature, even 4 degrees on the track, Martin. But they're looking like the compound that either of these two drivers would want to be on at the moment. I mean, just suffering a bit of graining.
Remember, Lewis went out really fast on these tyres, didn't he? Remember I said it's like opening a bag of sweets and choosing your favourite ones early on. And he's really struggling for grip now.
Out in front, Nico Rosberg, 33.5 seconds clear. Sebastian Vettel with a decent gap as well over Danny Kvyat in 3rd place. And looking at Daniel Ricciardo, seems fairly safe ahead of Kimi Raikkonen in 4th and 5th as well. The top 5 will be hoping that the adventure is done for the afternoon. They can come home and pick up a decent haul. The scraps are all going to come behind them. Often with the Chinese Grand Prix, the last 6 or 7 laps are where we do see quite a lot of place changes. So Massa and Hamilton, who's still within DRS range of the Williams. Bottas, Verstappen and Sainz. And Perez, who's now out of the points, overtaken by Carlos Sainz. There is your race leader. I keep mentioning him. He is still running in the race. Now we actually get to see him. He's just lapping cars for fun at the moment.
Yeah, lead 33.5 seconds now, Nico Rosberg. But he's barely had a car around him all afternoon. He's only had to 2-stop. So he could pick and choose. He could drive the line he wanted. He could drive the pace he wanted.
Esteban Gutierrez on Marcus Ericsson. Haas on Sauber. Gutierrez up into 14th place. But for him, I'm keeping fingers crossed. The checkered flag will be fluttering for the first time this season. He's the only driver who's raced in both of the opening races that failed to see the checkered flag in either. At least, even though he's a lap down, he's still going. But what happened there? A distraction for Nico Rosberg, going a bit wide.
Yeah, lack of concentration there.
He's not dozing off, surely.
No, they put those on a lap 36, so They're not exactly tired out, those tyres. Don't know. Yeah, a little lack of concentration, wasn't it? Not too much to challenge him at the moment. 34.5 seconds ahead now. Where's the scraps then? Hamilton still positioned just outside the DRS zone behind Massa. That looks rather nailed on there. And Verstappen is catching Bottas.
I'll tell you what, it might be a decent scrap going on for personal McLaren pride between Alonso and Button. Button on the super soft tyres, remember, is now 2.5 seconds behind his teammates. Yeah. And certainly catching him there. Long way out of the points. 5 laps remaining. Rosberg, despite the just the little blip that we saw there, on his way to victory.
The painful irony, isn't it, that for the McLaren boys, that the only point the team have scored so far this year, unless something magical happens in the next few minutes, is by Stoffel Vandoorne.
Who heads off to Super Formula next week and goes back to Japan for his junior series, his racing development after replacing Fernando Alonso, of course, in Bahrain last time out. Ted, to you, sir.
Max Verstappen. Now, we all know he's a good peddler, don't we?
Yep.
But he has had a good race. Under the safety car, he was well and truly behind his teammate Carlos Sainz, had to queue and lose time while Sainz pitted ahead of him. Sainz had out-qualified him, of course. But what with all the strategies, they both made 3 stops. Verstappen ending this race on the soft tyres, while Sainz, I believe, is on the medium. But Verstappen well and truly, although by a small margin, ahead of his teammates. So nice drive, Max, again.
And he might still have a nibble at Valtteri Bottas as well before the end of the race.
There's nice fresh soft tyres, yeah.
He's gaining about a second a lap at the moment as Bottas tries to make his way to the end on tyres, Valtteri Bottas, that were put on lap 30. It's right in the length or the range of the medium compound tyre.
Well used technical phrase, of course, nibble.
Nibble, yeah.
I think it's something a bit more relevant.
Well, we all like a nibble.
What else is going on down there? Ericsson and Hulkenberg squabbling over 15. 22 starters, 22 runners, 35 front wings. What have we gone through?
Around about 4 million pit stops as well. The points as they stand in the Drivers' Championship, a 34-point advantage going Nico Rosberg's way. If it remains as it is at the moment. I don't know, there's 21 races to go this year, but it is worth pointing out, or 21 races this year, I should say, in total. Just worth pointing out that 9 times a driver has won in the history of the Formula One World Championship, the opening 3 races of the season. And on every occasion, they've gone on to win the title. Starting with Alberto Ascari and ending with Michael Schumacher. And even Damon Hill did that in 1996, of course, 20 years ago.
Verstappen, I believe, will catch Valtteri Bottas. He's certainly got him in view now, dragging his teammate along with him as well. 2 bright young stars of the future, of course, Toro Rosso have got there.
I mentioned the McLaren scrap, there it is. Alonso and Button, even with that little lock up there from Jenson Button, catching his teammate. Now, what will McLaren do? Will they say, go for it, boys? Or will they say, what are you racing for?
That misfiring you can hear when they're in slow corners, that's compression ignition, basically diesel, I guess, before it goes on to spark ignition while they're saving fuel, managing the torque, and it doesn't sound very nice. But it's effective for what they need to do, because you don't need power on while you're trying to make the front tyres grip.
On board with race leader Nico Rosberg, and the man who will surely bring home the 100th podium finish for Mercedes as a Formula One team and a constructor. And what is their 400th Grand Prix as an engine supplier as well. Numbers stacking up nicely for both Rosberg and his team this afternoon. His teammate in 7th place, just losing a bit of pace behind Felipe Massa, and had a battle on his hands from last on the grid. Come home and score points, but not as many as he certainly would have wanted. Sebastian Vettel on course for an 81st podium of his career. Well, he'd equal Kimi Raikkonen if he manages to do that. Well, as for Danny Kvyat, I'm sure he'll be mightily happy with what would be a 2nd podium in his Formula One career, to go with the 2nd place he picked up in Hungary 2015. Ted, I don't know if you can see the Mercedes garage, if you can see people starting to celebrate and relax a bit down there on Nico Rosberg's side of the garage.
I can't. I can just see a man from the FIA running across the track. But do you know how Rosberg is going to celebrate tonight, Crofty?
Go on.
Well, you know, there's after this race, there's always a big post-race party at a popular nightclub in downtown Shanghai.
Ah, yes.
And we asked Rosberg if he was going to go to that if he won, and he told us yesterday, no, I'm not. I'm now a family man, so I don't do any of that. I'm going to get on a Lufthansa flight to go straight home to my family. But having been on a Lufthansa flight with Nico Rosberg in the past, after he's won his race, that was Mexico last year, I know what he's going to do on that Lufthansa plane, believe you me.
Well, the only time I've ever shared a plane, and Martin, you've shared a plane with many more drivers than me, with Nico Rosberg, was a flight in Japan once where he treated himself to a hamburger from a fast food outlet on the way home. Absolutely. No place for that sort of fast food abuse in any modern day sport.
He'll earn a drink or two if he wants one. But his turn to change nappies or something when he gets home. And maybe that's what he was thinking of when he went off in turn 9 or 10.
You know, you said Max Verstappen was going to catch Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah.
Was this is the moment here you were thinking
in my
of?
mind's eye, it looked a bit like this.
Yeah. So DRS for Max Verstappen. Valtteri Bottas is looking to his left, saying, "You're coming. I know you're coming, so I'm going to go to the right. And I'm going to cut you off." And now he's done a bit too late, and that was a bit too easy. He might end up losing 2 places here, Valtteri Bottas, because there's Carlos Sainz right behind him as well. And it looked clumsy, but was that just a case of lack of grip anywhere on the tyres? Got onto the marbles, Valtteri Bottas, and just couldn't bring the car to a halt. Yeah,
he's trying to brake late to defend the position, slightly distracted, and the tyres are getting a bit fed up at the front. We know they're punished around here. And they locked up. He just couldn't get that last bit of speed up. As the speed decays, the downforce decays dramatically. The ride height of the car goes up as the load comes off, and you just have so much less grip.
2 to go, Roman, 2 to go, hang in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. If you want to retire the car, there's a problem in the car somewhere. It's undrivable today.
Understood, but we do not want to retire the car. We do not want to retire. Let's hang in there.
He struggled all week as Romain Grosjean from tyre pressures to an undrivable car this afternoon. It's not going to be a top 5 finish like it was in Bahrain. Is Valtteri Bottas going to hang on to 9th place? Carlos Sainz all over him. Nico Rosberg out in front, doing very nicely. Thank you very much indeed. The battles are happening and have been happening way behind him all afternoon.
Another lap or two and Verstappen would be onto or even past Hamilton. He's flying with that last pit stop now.
He's around about 3 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton.
If there's a genuine reason to retire the car, it means you get a free change of gearbox and what have you for the next race. I think that's probably what might be in Romain Grosjean's mind, but they're saying, no, we want to keep our finishing record up. But it's good to hear it looks like he's going to get there.
I'll tell you what, as we watch Sainz on Bottas here, Verstappen has closed right up on Hamilton as well. They've got another lap to go. He might yet get an opportunity to get past. Hamilton's 7th place could be a little under threat. As we look for Nico Rosberg. There he is, race leader coming into the hairpin now. What a glorious afternoon it has been for him here in Shanghai. It's where he took his maiden pole and his maiden win in Formula 1, of course. And today, whilst all the carnage and the chaos happen behind him, Nico Rosberg has made it 3 wins out of 3 in Formula 1 in 2016. And when it's happened before, that driver has gone on to win the world title. And once again on a Sunday, the omens this year looking very nice indeed for Nico Rosberg. He wins the Chinese Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel, who tangled with his teammate on the opening corner of the opening lap, has salvaged a podium and a runners-up spot for Ferrari. Just 2 more corners to come for him. Ferrari came here with more pace, with renewed confidence, and they've certainly shown that at times here this afternoon. Sebastian Vettel comes home to finish second, a distant second to Rosberg, but it's another podium, his 81st in Formula 1, and behind him, Danny Kvyat will come home now to collect another podium for Red Bull, and their first of the season so far.
Verstappen right on the back of Hamilton down the back straight as well.
As Ricciardo finishes 4th and Kimi Räikkönen will be next across the line, and yes, there you are, just far enough behind for Lewis Hamilton's comfort, I think, Max Verstappen. But you're right, Martin, another lap.
Yeah.
And he would have been right on his tail. Raikkonen has officially finished 5th. We see now Felipe Massa finishes 6th. Lewis Hamilton does claim 7th. Started last, comes home to finish 7th. Max Verstappen picks up 4 points for 8th ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz. It's a double points finish for Toro Rosso here today, and Valtteri Bottas, a solitary point for Williams, completes the top 10. Sergio Perez missing out, and Alonso keeping ahead of Jenson Button in that McLaren battle at the end.
Well done, excellent drive, absolutely dominant, brilliant.
Wow, thanks to that, everybody. Really, that was the most incredible balance I've probably ever had in a race. That car, really spectacular.
Sounded like Tony Ross's engineer was more excited about it than Nico was this afternoon.
Well, we had one demonstration run, haven't we, and 21 other people having a great race.
And it was a fabulous race.
Good job, Sebastian. P2 and great recovery. Strong weekend.
Yeah, again, massive apologies. Excuse me. Massive apologies to the team, but surely I didn't do it on purpose. I'm really sorry for Kimi. Was nothing I could do. Kvyat came like a torpedo, and I had to react, and there was no way out.
Well, he blamed Fiat for the incident at the time, still holds Fiat responsible. Maybe taking a little bit of the responsibility, but trying to say to the team, I couldn't help it, I couldn't get out of the way. And Ferrari, it's another case of what might have been, Martin. In Bahrain we had the engine blow up and Sebastian didn't start. Had they not have tangled hits, would they have pushed Nico Rosberg? Would he have found that challenge that didn't come?
You know, he's ended up with all the trials and tribulations, 38 seconds adrift. So we do know it would have certainly been keeping Rosberg a lot busier, but then Rosberg must have had loads of time in his pocket as well, frankly. But it seems to me, to beat Mercedes, you've got to get in front of them and spoil their flow, spoil the airflow over the front of their car, and stop them from just being able to pick and choose their strategy. Two-stopper then for Nico Rosberg. Other people to two-stop included Massa. There were a few others who managed a two-stop, but most were 3, 4, and of course that extra one for Lewis made it 5.